Let's begin this. Avicenna. So we went over our warrants and our links. I'm going to go over it just simply as a refresher. Remember, Avicenna puts a very heavy emphasis on the component of both knowledge and ethics are necessary. As a refresher, his first warrant, our phenomenal experience of the world confirms that things exist, right? We, because we've lived, know that things exist. And that existence, in his second warrant, is not necessary because we notice that things come into existence and pass out. If you remember the example I gave you, we don't have dinosaurs, but the dinosaurs existed. We don't have many things, and we will have different things. Like, for example, as jokers might have it, we have a corona. We did not have a corona, now we have a corona. So things can come into play. And I hate videos and also computers, and now I'm doing a lecture on a video. Contingent existence cannot arise unless it is made necessary by a cause. See, this is an important warrant also because things do not come to be unless something makes it to be, which means nothing in this world is absolute. Even when it is absolute within itself, but something pushes it. Link 1. A causal chain in reality must culminate in one uncaused cause. What does that mean? Well, it means that in order for things to come into a being, something that needs to, in understanding of what it is, we need to be able to conceptualize what is that singular push that made it to be. In class, when we were talking about it on Thursday, I brought example of what happens when people grow up in a violent household. What happens if people tend to become racist or sexist or so forth and so on. Nothing is ever just as simple as it is, but all of those things have a triggering impact. That one kid who's been otherized in school and has been bullied, and then he or she turns towards violence, that's probably the one cause. Now, if one were to say, well, wait a second, that is not the cause, whoever made that person be that way because he was bullied, that is the extension. That's when we have no infinite regress, because we cannot go 14 generations back and say, well, this is the original sin problem. Adam and Eve made us evil because we've tested from the fruit of the tree. And the contingent existence, mind must find a principle in soul. See, Avicenna, talking about knowledge and ethics, the ethics regulates us to understand what causes what, and we need to find that root cause, because if we do not find that root cause, we will forever find ourselves in a premise where we are unable or incapable of pushing and understanding the world. With those things reviewed, let's go to the impacts. First impact is that essence can exist in the external world associated with the qualities particular in reality. Think about it. We do not need racism, but we have racism. And a racism manifests itself in a world in which the reality permits it to be. So for example, one would say racism that exists within the Americas is different than a racism that exists in Catalonia, Spain. Why? Because in Spain, they don't perceive it as to be racist. Or some other version of racism might exist in Latin America, specifically in Mexico, where darker skinned people are viewed as indigenous and lighter skinned are perceived to be more preferential. Now, the racism in and of itself is not called as such because we don't have that clear divide. But in their reality, that essence exists, which is, interestingly enough, is where, again, the impact of knowledge and ethics connects together. Those who've been otherized do not think of themselves as the ones who are perpetrators. Think about it. Often and too often, those who've been victimized do not perceive themselves as perpetrators because they already take upon themselves the title or the label of a victim, which therefore means that anything that they cause is never going to be their fault. But the essence of that evil that has been either generated or created by that singular cause of whatever that cause happens to be can manifest itself within that particular reality in a way that one would need it. Think about it. We would consider putting people in a house arrest to be a martial law. Reality has changed. We are sick. Now we are self-putting ourselves in the house arrest. And in our reality, we have shaped and changed how we perceive our society. Sure, we do it for the safety reasons, but that safety reason is exactly different than the safety reason that the state deems it necessary for us to be otherized. Next impact is that they exist in mind as concepts. Here's the key, folks. When we understand that in our minds we have the capacity of the greatest good and the greatest evil, which we do, we can allow ourselves the manifestation of it within the society. How far is too far? And that is always going to be rooted in two things. One, in whatever that cause was, because it is a comparative layer. The simplest example I can think of is that Joseph Stalin in Russia, never thought of himself as a bad guy. He thought of himself as the guy who brought rule and order. He did it at the expense of 20 million of his countrymen, but he, in his mind, he thought he was being fairest of them all. If we look at the corrupt government, if we look at mafia, for example, Italian mafia, all of them think that they're the most benign people on the planet and the other people are the ones who are bad, right? Like, I mean, it's their business. Cosa Nostra and all that family crap is only a way to abuse other people. But in their mind, they still go, they still pray, they still baptize their children, and they still tell their children, I want you to be a good child. While they're, like watch Sopranos, you will see lots of examples of a person thinking that he's good but bad but good. And finally, those notions and ideas can exist in themselves devoid of any mode. What does that mean? It means that the fight that we have against unfairness and prejudice and hatred, and even in practical sense, helping one another, or for that sake, also the notion of otherizing people, because does not need to be in any way formatted other than in the fact that those things exist within ourselves and outside of ourselves, but also they exist within themselves. Why? Because a lion that is about to attack a gazelle will never going to say, hey, I had my fill, other lions come to me. That is not true, because even when a lioness attacks and kills the kill, they don't eat it. They allow the male lion to come and eat the meal before they can eat it, even though they have done the work, which means that both existence exists of ability to care for the others and also being selfish. Like for example, hoarding that is taking place right now, because I cannot think of a better example. Look, everybody knows we need to be prepared. Nobody needs a 1-year supply of toilet paper. At the moment when you have a 1-year supply of toilet paper, that means you have allowed yourself to detach from the reality. And you are pushing the type of perception that you want. And you are ethically challenged. And definitely not going to be able to answer anything. Okay, I guess that's it.